Reading aloud opens doors for children. Reading takes them to places and ideas that they might not encounter in everyday life. Reading opens their imagination. As a sector, we're concerned about building children's vocabulary. One of the most efficient and enjoyable ways to build their vocabulary is to read aloud to them.
Bump! It hit a hole and down!
The written word contains vocabulary of greater sophistication and nuance than that which children would normally encounter in their everyday lives. Texts tend to contain language of greater depth and complexity than the everyday talk in classrooms. If we read aloud to children, we expose them to the concepts, big ideas, and lovely language.
Woo! They dipped. Whoops! They slipped. And
One of the barriers to reading aloud to children is that it feels enjoyable. So we wonder, how can this be work? But just because it feels easy and children enjoy it, does not mean that it isn't high value. In fact, the opposite is the case. Given that reading aloud has the capacity to develop children's language and their ability to think, we need to privilege this aspect of our work and ensure there is time in the timetable for reading aloud every day. A second element we need to consider is that reading aloud to the whole class means that every child is included. There are concerns about closing the gap for children with low prior attainment, and this happens when they're consistently given work which puts limits on their learning. Reading aloud overcomes this.
the car rolled onto the boat and splash!
When we read stories aloud and we take the time to discuss the interesting words and ideas, we're developing children's cognitive capacities and their ability to talk, and eventually to write well. Standards rise when we expose children to lovely texts. And finally, the more we read to children, the more likely they are to want to read for themselves. The power of Bug Club shared reading is that through rich stories, it facilitates daily reading aloud across reception, Year 1 and Year 2.